Hey everybody, welcome back to photography class. This is number 34. How's everybody doing? It's 20 degrees Fahrenheit for my UK friends. It's icy. All the snow that we had, half of it melted and turned into ice. Great. All right. So, I'm so glad we're all together here in this freezing January 2022. Today's shout out, let's get right into it. Today's shout out goes to my neighbor to the north in Alberta, Canada, Mr. Azriel Knight. His YouTube photography channel, Azriel Knight, AZRIELKNIGHT. It's also nicknamed Days of Night. That's a great name. All right, so I have been subscribed to Mr. Knight's YouTube photography channel for a very long time. And as I know many of you are subscribers to his channel, and the first thing besides his awesome beard, the first thing you notice about Mr. Knight is his soft-spoken demeanor, which just draws you in. You want to listen to him. Oh, what a great guy. For you guys that don't know Mr. Knight on Azriel Knight YouTube photography channel, he is the type of photographer, no nonsense. Let's take a camera. Let's go out and shoot it. Let's go into his darkroom, develop the film, and take a look at the prints. So, what made me take up a challenge that he doesn't even know about yet, he did a video which went from laughing to tears to laughing to learning to awe-inspiring. Is his video. It's about a year ago. It's entitled Minolta Maxxum 50. So you watch this video, and he takes you on his personal life. Let me just give you a little behind the scenes. I don't want to. This is a spoiler alert. His video's been out for a year, so I can give you a little spoiler alert. He lives in Alberta. His family, his ancestors have roots there for 140 years plus up in Alberta. He went to go photograph a church, wooden church, in the middle of, it looks like the middle of the wilderness. To me, this Manhattan guy, it looks like the middle of the wilderness with a huge river off to the side, mountains in the background, beautiful fields. Okay? He goes to photograph this church, which happened to have been built by his family over 100 years ago. A beautiful wooden church in Alberta. It was built by his ancestors of the McDougals. So he goes to photograph it, comes back home, and within days he gets notice that that church that his family built was burnt to the ground. Whether it was by nature or by arson, who knows? So you can see in his video that he's really upset. Deeply upset. And that's why I mentioned it brings you highs and lows to tears. So he packs up his car and he drives to where the church was burnt down. And he learns that the people up in Alberta, the loving people up in Alberta, rebuilt the church to nearly 100% of what it looked like. Oh my goodness. So you have to watch his video to really appreciate it. So this is what he does. He gets himself the Minolta the Plastic Fantastic Minolta Maxxum 50 with the 28 to 100 kit lens, also plastic. All right. So he takes the Minolta Maxxum with him up to the church in Alberta that his family built and then it got burnt down. And he takes pictures with it. Now, he went up there in January into Alberta, Canada. You can see he's got on very heavy clothing, hat. There's snow on the ground. There's snow on the mountains. It's January in Canada. Do the math. It's freezing out. So he takes his camera, right? The Minolta Maxxum 500. The Minolta Maxxum 50. And he photographs the church and the grounds. And he starts to get trouble from the camera. It's not acting right. It's not sounding right. So he nearly finishes the roll of film. And he drives back home. And he says it right up front. Before he even develops the film, he says up front, I want to get the quote exactly what he said. Oh, yeah, he called it a piece of crap. He called the Minolta Maxxum 50 a piece of crap. So he's developing the film. And then, talk about suspense. After he develops the film, he can't get the reel, the Patterson reels apart. The way they're white plastic ones, you get them apart and you pull them apart. He can't do it. So he has to get a cloth or a paper towel to pop it apart and pull it apart. And the suspense is building. And then he pulls the most beautiful black and white negatives out of the reel. So he then changed his mind to still the camera, in fact, did give him trouble by sound, but like any photographer, whether you're a newbie or a pro, your camera should sound correct. It shouldn't sound like a broken toy. So here's what I'm going to do. I want you to go to his video, right? Go to Azriel Knight, Azriel Knight, Knight. Go to his YouTube channel. Search for Minolta Maxxum 50. And I want you to start, not in the beginning, but I want you to go to 25 minutes and 30 seconds. You can scroll on the bar, go to 25:30 and pause and look at the most beautiful black and white photograph of the church with leading lines that this camera, this Plastic Fantastic camera, did. So let's back up a little bit. Why am I making this video? Well, I saw Mr. Knight's video on this Plastic Fantastic, and I looked it up. I'm like, how much could this cost on eBay? Well, how about the price of 4 gallons of gas or gasoline or petrol, depending on where you're from, for your automobile? This camera with the lens in operating condition, right, was about $20. In fact, right now, today, on YouTube, I do all my research for you guys. I'm so good. Right now, this camera is for $25. However, he has a make an offer button, and he wants $13.70 for shipping. That's today, January 10th, 2022. The seller has over 747 credibility / feedbacks, and his percentage, 99.3. That falls into my criteria for a good seller. You're shooting for a seller with 100%, plus thousands or at least hundreds of feedbacks, and no less than 99.2. Okay, so that's the price. So let's get back to Mr. Knight and his photographs up in Alberta near the mountains in the freezing cold of January in Canada last year. So I did a little research on the camera, and to tell you the truth, there's really nothing out there in depth other than this is 18 years old, made in 2004. And like Mr. Knight says, it was built at a time in 2004 when camera companies saw the light of, you know what, we're going to get clobbered with all the digital cameras coming out. So let's put together a kit with actually the functions are pretty professional. Functions are pretty professional. You get a full range of manual or autofocus. You get your choice of aperture priority, shutter priority, program mode, or full manual. You can set your own ISO. Come on. Usually these cameras, these plastic fantastic cameras, you get what you get from when you pop in your DX film, right? Right here, your DX coated film. You get what you get. Okay? It takes 2 CR2 batteries, right? Which of course, get the lithium ones. They last 30 rolls. But anyway, let's get back to the challenge. He didn't make the challenge. I made the challenge. I challenged myself based on his video. So I get this camera a week ago. And it's January. And it's snowing, or just finished snowing, really, here in New York. And here's the problems he had. He found the camera not to be worth its salt in the cold weather, especially below freezing. So he had some trouble. He didn't think he was going to get very many good exposures because it just didn't sound right. He bracketed, crossed his fingers, hoped for the best. So what do? I take this camera and I load it with 100 speed, 100 ISO or ASA speed film. You know which film I like, Shanghai GP3. I loaded it up, but I put on, if you can see it, I put on the front an orange filter. Now, this isn't just any orange filter. This is a vintage 85B color correcting filter. Okay? So, it's because I had it. And you really do, if you're going to go shoot snow, right, where it's bright out and it's snow, if you don't do something as far as a filter, you're probably going to end up with just white, like white, without any kind of detail at all. And because I wanted to test the meter, right, it's through the lens, so I didn't have to compensate for anything because it will meter read right through the orange filter, right? I hope you guys can see that filter good enough that it's orange. Well, let's get the torch, as they say in the UK, with a flashlight. How's that? Is that better? Can you see? Can you see that it's orange? Okay. But it's not just any old orange. Like I said, it's an 85B filter. Okay. Believe me, if I had just a straight Hoya orange filter, I would have used it. But I had an 85B. It's orange. Let's try it. So I go out here in New York into a park, and snow on the ground. After a storm here in New York, whether it's a snowstorm or a rainstorm or a hurricane or a tornado, the next day, it is the most beautiful day you've ever seen. The air is clean and crisp. The skies are blue with maybe some clouds. It's gorgeous. Sure, because the winds blew all the pollution and horrible humidity clear out to sea. All right. So I go out and I start photographing the snow, trying to do the best you can landscape photography wise in the snow. Here you go. Now, this is the photographs, a photograph from this. I paid $20. I paid $20 for my camera, and it came with the camera, the lens, and this one, the guy threw in a bag, a camera bag, and the strap. $20. They can't give these away on YouTube. That's why you got to grab one, because for the price of 4 gallons of gasoline, that's how I relate to if something's expensive or not, right? If something, let me see if I can put this over here. How's this? I hate doing this. I hate holding up my photographs because they look like garbage on a webcam. Go to my website, CarmineTaverna.com. All you got to do is, I list everything by the gear, right? So just go to the search bar at my website and put in Minolta Maxxum 50, burp, and the pictures will come up. Here's the point of the story. The point of the story is, like Mr. Knight did, he went out in the snow, freezing, last January, up in Alberta, Canada. Now, I'm in New York, right? We border Canada. However, I'm like, 700 miles from the Canadian border. So I take this picture, right? Now, the only reason that there's really good, I'm bragging, contrast and detail in the snow is because of the orange filter. Okay? Let's look at one more. Okay? Now, look at what the filter does. It kind of makes it look like you're photographing with moonlight, the way that it really puts the contrast out there. Now, a lot of people say, I don't want a filter to mess with my contrast. I'll take care of it in post. Well, guess what? This isn't a digital camera where you're going to shoot raw and then put it into Lightroom and Photoshop. And no, this is film. You are Photoshop. You are Lightroom. You are the slider of contrast. You have to work on your contrast and shadows and detail before you take the picture. Okay, I'm getting hot. Okay, so now remember, we're still talking about Mr. Knight's video. Okay, look at the sky. Okay, this was a beautiful blue sky. Turned it dark gray. There happens to be some birds flying, a flock, getting the hell out of New York for the winter. All right, but the point of the story is the camera. All right, the challenge that I invented from Mr. Knight's video. Whoop. Now this one is just toned with sepia. No, sorry, this is selenium. Selenium toner makes it blue, not sepia. Sepia is brown. All right, this is a panoramic. Not that I used the 28 to 100 lens that came with it. Didn't come with a 17 millimeter. It's just the way you crop it. Okay, I cropped it like that. See, I don't know if it was 9 by 10, 6 by 8. I don't know, or maybe I just did freestyle cropping. Okay, so let's continue. So I'm shooting these pictures, right? And when I shot them, it was obviously in the snow, right? Right. Obviously in the snow. Just 2 days ago here in New York, the temperature was below freezing. So I wanted to see if my copy of the Maxxum, Minolta Maxxum 50, would act up. And Now, I realize that Alberta, it's very likely that it was a lot colder than New York in January. But still, it was below freezing here, and it was snow on the ground, and it was windy, right? Wind chill. So I get to my last frame, right? I get to frame 36, and like all good plastic fantastic cameras, it automatically rewinds. So I'm like, oh, good. Start to walk back to the car, and the rewind goes, and I'm like, what? That's not long enough of a motor sound for 36 frames. So I turned it off, like one does. Turned it back on, right? The off. You have off here. You turn it on, right? And then I hoped that it would rewind again. It didn't. Then it has an emergency rewind submerged button, where you need a paper clip to hit. That's really meant for if you shoot half a roll and you want to get it out, right? So I pressed that. Nothing. All right. So I figured it's the cold. The grease on the gears. There's a lot of gears in a camera, especially on an auto rewind, auto focus, right? There's a lot of grease. And if you use cheaper grease, right, you're going to get problems when it's cold out. Okay. So I get in the car, drive home, and I said, you know what? Let me just leave the camera alone in the living room where it's 70 degrees for a couple hours. It'll warm everything up. I'll turn it back on, and bzzz, all the film will gently be rewound back into the cassette. Nope. Didn't happen. After about 2 hours in the living room where it's 70 degrees, and my two Yorkies sleep all day long, I turned it on, and nothing. Now, this is where experience comes in. If you're a newbie and you get this camera and you shoot the roll of film and you hear bzzz, what's the first thing you're going to do? Well, the camera rewound, right? Oh, open it up. Oh, dear. And all your film is here, and it only a little bit gets into the cassette. Okay, that's where experience comes in. So I knew just by sound and being familiar for the last 49 years being a photographer that was not long enough for the film to rewind. So I says, oh, we have a problem, Houston. So I says, okay, time to put the camera into the changing bag and then open it up. And sure enough, I opened the camera back up into the changing bag, and 75% of the film did not get back into the cassette. So it would have been ruined. 75% of the shots would have been exposed to the light and ruined. But this is where experience comes in. That if in doubt, don't open the bag. Put it away, get another camera, or go home. So in the changing bag, I took the film out, took the cassette out, and by hand wound it into the cassette off the reel. That's some exercise when you can't see what you're doing, and you don't want to scratch the film, right? Your fingers are everywhere. You don't want to get fingerprints on everything, okay? So now your hands are starting to sweat because you get nervous. You don't want anything to ruin the negatives. Okay, long story short, as you can see, developed the film. Now, how did I develop the film? I developed this film in D76, 1:3. Now, the temperature in the basement here in New York was a little chilly. So the temperature of my chemicals was 64. So there's a chart online, okay? It may be part of the dev chart, okay? I think so. And it just tells you how to adjust your time, developing time, by temperature, right? 68's the normal, so it shows you if you're a little cooler or a little warmer, how to adjust your time. So I developed this at 64 degrees, and I always put the developing information on the back, and it was for 16 minutes. 16-minute development with normal agitation at 64 degrees. And now I did not manipulate the developing time or temperature to create a result. I wanted it to be as close to normal temperature development time as possible. And I know the temperature of my chemicals, and I know after developing film for 49 years, change the time. Instead of heating up water and making a warm water bath to bring it up, no. I would have been down there for 2 more hours. No. This is the professional way. Adjust your development time based on the temperature. Yes, 68 degrees is the norm. If your temperature of your chemicals is 67, 66, 65, 64, you increase your time. If it's 69, 70, 71, 72, 73, you decrease your time. Okay? So this had to be developed 2.5 minutes longer because it was at 64 degrees. Big deal. That's a lot better. You can see the outcome. Okay? With this $20 camera. Okay? The film is still under $4 a roll. Shanghai GP3 100 ISO film. Where do you buy it? On eBay. Am I sponsored by them? No. I'm sponsored by me. Okay. So, let's wrap this up. We've gone 27 minutes already. All right. So, the challenge was for me to see if I could recreate a similar photograph, meaning to match his beautiful landscape of that church and the mountains and the river. All right. Well, guess what? In New York City, we don't have mountains and rivers like that in New York City. Yes, upstate New York. Sure. I don't live upstate New York. I live in the city. All right. So you go to your parks, right, that you know of before other people get there, right, and destroy it. And I wanted to see if my camera, if my Plastic Fantastic camera would have similar problems be based on the temperature. And it did. It did. Just remember, now I still right now would recommend this camera. Just don't use it when it's below, I want to say, 50 Fahrenheit. Which means use it in the spring, the summer, and the fall. This is not a winter camera. Okay? As Mr. Knight and myself have proven, this inexpensive, right? Remember what I said? It's $25 right now on eBay with an offer, right? Which means you could probably get it for $20 plus the $13.70 shipping. All right. Oh, and thanks to the new regulations, tax. So, am I going to sell this camera? No. Am I going to keep it? Yes. What's it say on the back? To remind this old guy, remove film in darkroom. So I will use this camera, except when it does rewind, partially, as it likes to do, I'll just turn it off, bring it home, and take the film out in the changing bag. So let's wrap this up best that we can. Mr. Knight, Azrael Knight, right? Days of Night, his YouTube channel. I just want to say seriously, Mr. Knight, I have been watching your channel for many years. I follow you, and I admire the way you have a no-nonsense way of teaching your photography skills to others. And the one that hurt the most because it was the most truthful was in one of your videos you said you did a clean sweep. You know how people have gear acquisition syndrome? And they just keep collecting cameras and lenses and more cameras and more lenses. You said these words. And it hurt because it's the truth. You said you don't need more than 2 of each kind of camera. For example, 2 35mm film cameras, 2 120 film cameras, 2 maybe pocket point and shoot cameras. That's it. Boy, did that hurt, because it's the truth. You don't need to have 12 35mm single lens reflexes. You don't need to have 17 medium format cameras. You're right. And it hurts. And it's going to hurt a lot of people that listen to this, because it's great to collect cameras. And then you're like, oh, now I have a decision to make. What camera am I going to use? It's like when you have too many choices. It's like, ugh, right? Okay. Let me just see if I covered everything that I wanted to say. Remember, go visit his channel. Subscribe to his channel. Go to his video. Just go in the search bar. Or you could scroll on Mr. Knight's channel, Azriel Knight, and look for the one that has Maxxum 50, Minolta Maxxum 50. All right? And I want you to start at 25 minutes and 30 seconds into his video. Look at the photograph. Look at that beautiful, contrasty, gorgeous photograph of the church. And then go back to 0 and watch it from the beginning. It's like a little spoiler. Okay? We talked about that the camera is on sale. A lot of them, tons of them on sale on eBay. And ones that work and come with a lens. And in fact, some of them still are in the box. All right, so I think we went through everything I wanted to mention. And there was one last thing. I made a little post-it note here with one word on it. Beard. Mr. Knight, my beard's coming in. It's not like yours. Your beard is awesome. All right, guys. Subscribe to my channel right over here. Boop, 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 boop. There's a little red box. Just hit it and end it. Give me a thumbs up. If you give me a thumbs down, you're going to hurt my feelings. Look at this face. Leave a comment below. Email me anytime you want. blackandwhitephoto@aol.com. Anything photo related. Anything you want to know. I've been doing this for 49 years. Magazine covers. Newspapers. Just email me any question you want. Comment below. What else? My website, CarmineTaverna.com. It's a website that shows you thousands of my photographs. Nothing's for sale. Go into the search box if you want to search a particular camera that I may have used, or whatever, or just scroll through. You could do it by date. You could see what the pictures that I take. January 2019. Just click on it. Okay, so Mr. Knight, thank you for having a wonderful, peaceful, intelligent, fact-filled photography website, Azriel Knight, or Days of Night. And I just want you to know that here in the States, you have thousands of viewers. Many of my colleagues, fellow photographers, all you have to mention is Days of Night, and they go, oh yeah, and they start doing this, oh yeah. You are well known here in the United States for your photography skills, and we thank you. Have a great night. Have a great day. Stay warm. I know if you're watching this in the future when it's July, you'll be, what do you mean stay warm? Hey, it's January right now, right? Live in the present. All right, guys. Take it easy. See you next class.